The holiday season is upon us, and life is getting more hectic as we prepare to gather with friends and family. We still need nutritious, convenient meals to keep ourselves energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. Too busy with holiday plans to cook, but want to make sure you're still eating well? With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. Looking for some special occasion meals during the holidays? Level up with Gourmet Plus options, prepared to perfection by chefs and ready to eat in record time. Enjoy premium ingredients like broccolini, leeks, truffle butter, and asparagus. When you're too busy running around to plan lunch, Factor has you covered then too. With lunch to go, effortless, wholesome meals like grain bowls and salad toppers that are ready to eat when you're on the go. No microwave required. Looking for calorie-conscious options over the holidays that also taste great? Try delicious dietitian-approved Calorie Smart meals with around less than 550 calories per serving. Need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and feel your best during the holidays? Try Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. Enjoy extra convenience any time of day with an assortment of 45 plus add-ons to suit various preferences and tastes. Choose from breakfast items like our delicious apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon and cheddar egg bites, and potato, bacon, and egg breakfast skillet. Or for an easy wellness boost, try refreshing beverage options like cold-pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. We offset 100% of our delivery emissions and source 100% renewable electricity for our production sites and offices. This November, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door, ready in 2 minutes. No prep, no mess. Head to factormeals.com/wheelbearings50 and use code wheelbearings50, that's wheelbearings50, to get 50% off. That's wheelbearings50 at factormeals.com/wheelbearings50 to get 50% off. Coming up on episode 326 of Wheel Bearings, we got the Ford F-250 Super Duty, the Kia EV6, a new Porsche Panamera, a one-make series for the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. Would you buy your car from Amazon? Is Magna going to develop the next Scout for EV for Volkswagen? Cruise is scaling way back. All that and more coming up next. This is episode 326 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam of Will Sandwich from Guidehouse Insights.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
And Nicole is off beginning an extended vacation trek with her husband Russ in Europe. And unfortunately, our usual fill-ins, neither Stephanie or Tanya were available today either. So it's just us, just the guys.
The guys.
Got lots of topics today. So what have you been driving?
So I have been driving something. I've driven most of them at this point, but I've been driving the 2023 EV6 GT-Line rear-wheel drive.
So not quite a GT.
So not quite a G. This is the thing this is the confusing thing with the GT-Line, is that Kia has the GT, the EV6 GT, which is a little, sort of sports car-ish thing. And they have the GT-Line. Now, clearly they knew the GT was coming. It wasn't just like one morning they woke up, make a GT. So there's that. So it's a little confusing. The GT and the GT-Line are not completely different, but two different trim levels. It doesn't make sense. They could have called it something else, but they didn't. Anyway, suffice to say, I did not drive the super crazy fast Kia EV6 GT this week. I drove the regular EV fast Kia EV6 that just happens to have some fancy bits added on top of it. Like, let's see what you get with the GT-Line. Surround sound view, blind spot, power sunroof, exterior and interior styling, automatic pop-up outside door handles, augmented reality head-up display, remote parking. It's just a bunch of stuff that you probably don't really need, to be honest. I guess highway driving assist too, and I mean that's nice if you're the kind of person who gets stuck in traffic a lot. This is the rear-wheel drive version, so typically that means for Kia more range. This has a range of 310 miles, which is a lot of range. I have not had an opportunity because it's the holidays to do a range run on this vehicle. But judging on literally every other Kia EV that I've driven, I'm going to say, yeah, they probably hit 310 miles.
At least, maybe more.
At least, yeah, probably more. I've been driving around. It is rear-wheel drive, which, is cool because if you click, and now I'm not saying you should do this, but if you click and hold on the what do you call it? I don't know. I can never remember.
The on-off button? The stop-start button?
No, the safety that keeps you from sliding off the road and dying.
Oh, the stability control.
The stability control. If you click and hold on stability control, it turns off all the things. So it doesn't have a drift button like the GT, but you can't get those back wheels. Just those rear tires to break loose a little bit.
Yeah, well,
not that you should.
The GT's all-wheel drive, so it's inherently a little bit harder to drift than a rear-wheel drive car. So if you got the rear drive, you don't really need the drift button.
Yeah, you don't need a drift button. So I've been driving around for a week, doing holiday things, not participating in Black Friday if I could help it. Except it turns out Black Friday is like a whole weekend now. Like I went to the store yesterday.
It's more like a month and a half.
Yeah, it just keeps going. It never ends.
Black Friday ads like in the middle of October, I think before Halloween.
So I went to the store yesterday, and it was just a lot of people. And I was like, what happened? I thought this was supposed to be over. That's why I'm out here in the world. This sucks. Anyway, it's a 77.4 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery. You have 225 horsepower from that rear engine, more than enough. I mean, it obviously doesn't have a kick of the all-wheel drive or the GT, but yeah, I'm going to tell you that's clearly way more than you probably. All that extra stuff is fun and great, and let's have a good old time. But for the most part, in your daily life, you're not going to need that. It has 258 pound-feet of torque, which is also adequate for a vehicle this size. And it has a lot of room. It's that's how they get you with these EVs. Is you get inside and you're like, oh, just for those that are built as EVs. Some of the ones that are sort of half EV, half gas car, like the i4, and that's you get in it. It feels like the gas vehicle, but then it drives like an EV. Which, by the way, the i4 is great because someone asked us about it, and I just want to remind everybody it's still great. Yeah, EV6 GT. This one starts at $52,900, and then they threw a bunch of other bits on there, floor mats, whatnot, and it came out to $54,690. It's $54,690. Sorry, I have some phlegm or something in my throat. And yeah, now if you just go out and buy yourself, if you just go to Kia, you can get the Wind, which is the starting EV6, and the Wind starts at like rear-wheel drive, starts at $42,000. So this is $42,600.
But that's with the smaller battery, right? It
has a smaller battery, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not the Wind. The Light. Wind is the mid range.
Yeah.
So the Light has a smaller battery, 232 miles of range. If you get the Light long range all-wheel drive, that has 282 miles of range. That one starts at 49,850. Whoops, I'm sorry, that's the all-wheel drive. Sorry, 45,000 for 310 miles of range. If you're looking and you're like, I really need range for whatever reason, and you don't have to worry about snow or anything like that, and you'd like a rear-wheel drive vehicle, the light long-range rear-wheel drive is probably the way to go. You're going to save yourself about $7,000. If you want all-wheel drive, that's about $4,000 more, but the range only goes down to 282, and so that's actually kind of good. So, the light is sort of the if you're just kind of, I just need an EV. It doesn't need to be fancy. That's kind of your jam.
It's still a stylish looking car.
Yeah, it looks exactly the same. They all have 800 volt DC fast charging, which charges at, what is it now, 240 something. It's so hard to get Kia and Hyundai down on their actual charge rates. It's above 200. I think I've gotten 229 or 237 or something.
I've gotten, I think, as much as 246.
All right, so let's say 240. Yeah, see, so it's
somewhere in the 230 to 240 range, assuming, of course, that you can find a fully functional CCS 350 kilowatt charger.
Yeah, so there's a new one near my house. There's a new EVgo station set up with a bunch of 350s. So I've been running this EV6 down. I want to get down to about 20%. So I'm going to go run some more errands today, and then take it over there and see how quick this puppy works. And if it doesn't work that quickly, then that's fine, I guess. That's just how life is. It shouldn't be fine. It should be, if I went to buy a burger and it's a quarter pounder and then the burger was less than a quarter pound, it was like an eighth pound, and they're like, well, that's just how it works today. You're like, what?
Yeah, my friend Mark Phelan, who's the auto critic for the Detroit Free Press, he's been driving looks like a BMW, probably an i5 or an i4 this past week. And he's been posting on Threads his complaints about using a new EVgo charger somewhere here in the Detroit area. And he had one the other day. There's a lot to love about electric vehicles, but nothing to like about the US DC fast charging network. I stood in cold rain for 10 minutes for EVgo network customer service next to another charger that's been down for at least 3 days. The rep was pleasant, but couldn't reset either. She directed me to a neighboring, much slower charger. And this is no way to run a transportation network. And he had a couple other posts, similar challenges. I had one 350 kilowatt charger that stopped working after 8 minutes. 8 minutes after walking away to buy groceries. Of course, your app didn't tell me, and of course, customer service couldn't help when I called from inside the grocery store. I ran into one of our contacts from Electrify America in LA last week, and he said they've been doing a lot. They're going to be making they're planning to make some announcements soon about what they're doing. But all of these companies need to do a much, much better job. And this kind of poor performance of their chargers, this is why everybody is doing deals with Tesla to use the supercharger network. And hopefully, when Tesla is actually supporting all of these other brands of vehicles, they remain as reliable as they have been, because, a lot of the issues are often software problems. And there's no guarantee that when Tesla is trying to support vehicles from 20 different automakers that their chargers will remain as reliable, but hopefully they will.
Yeah, you're talking, essentially a walled garden, and now they have to go at scale. But I did use the Magic Dock with an iX. I don't know, whenever they opened the like 4 charging stations around the world that have the Magic Dock.
I think they're up to about 20 now. I was looking at the app last week, and there's a few more scattered around the country now.
All right, I'll look around, see if there's any near here. But it worked fine. The only issue I had is I didn't have a billing. I didn't have a card on there, so I had to put a credit card into the app so they could bill me for the charging station, and it was 10 cents more than the EA charger that I stopped at about an hour earlier, just because I didn't want to get all the way up. It's in the in the mountains up on the way to Lake Tahoe, and I didn't want to get up on the way to Lake Tahoe and then like, oh, it doesn't work at all. I'm like, oh no. So, I hedged my bets, but it worked great. You just plugged it in and it worked, and then it was like, all right, well, hopefully they can do that at scale with multiple vehicles. But yeah, I'll try. I'm gonna try this EV Go today. So fingers crossed. But yeah, it's disappointing is not even a strong enough word for what's been happening. And like we're making an announcement. Announcements don't mean anything because they've all been making announcements. That doesn't fix things. It's like saying I'm going to clean my garage. I've been saying that for weeks.
I've been saying it for years.
Yeah, I'm going to put up some new cabinets in my garage. They're in the box still. It's been 3 weeks, Robbie. Come on.
All right. Anything else on the EV6?
It's for the, it's just the EV. The Hyundai Motor Group's just been killing it. I mean, I feel like a broken record at this point when we're talking about this. It's a great little car. It's fun to drive around. I'm still not a fan of the fact that you have to push that little button to like go from temperature to adjusting the volume. This one has the update where it automatically goes back to climate controls, which is nice because that's and you can still do the volume on the steering wheel. But the passenger's like, I want to turn down the volume. Like, hold on, let me show you how to turn down the volume in this vehicle. You see that button with the little arrow and the little fan? Yeah, that's a button. Yeah, that's a button. It doesn't look like a button. It just looks like a little. Press that, and then you can use this little knob on the left.
Yeah.
What? I'm like, right now, if you use that little knob on the left, you're just going to adjust my temperature.
Yeah, it's a dumb design, but that's like the only bad thing about this car.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't had any other things where I'm like, boo, car.
Earlier in the week, I was talking to a reporter for a story they were doing on EV sales. Yeah, and one of the problems that we've got is the much of the mainstream media has done a pretty bad job of actually reporting, especially what's going on with EV sales.
They just looked at two companies and they're like, well, everything is doomed.
Yeah, GM and Ford announced that they're slowing down some of their investments, and so it's like they assume that means the whole industry is messed up, and it's not true. First of all, with a lot of the supply chain problems getting resolved, overall vehicle production is up significantly in 2023 compared to 2022, and sales are also up. And when I actually pulled out the numbers for 2021, 2022, 2023, the market share for EVs so far through the end of October of this year in the US is like 7.5%, which compared to 5.5% for all of 2022. Now, through most of this year, the market share has remained relatively flat, but in that 7 to 7.5% range. But that also means 7%, 7.5% of a bigger pie. So EV sales are up by like 20% overall for the year compared to last year, and we're on track for our first year ever of over 1 million EV sales in the US. It's already at like 920,000 through October. And so we're definitely going to hit well over 1 million sales this year for the first time. So EVs are actually doing fine. The only major automaker that was down is Ford. They had a variety of issues, and sales of the Lightning and the Mach-E are they're actually closer to flat. They're down a little bit, but not much. But their market share was down of EVs. So EVs are doing just fine. But the charging companies really need to get their act together and get this stuff resolved, because what they've been doing is just miserable.
Well, it seems like, especially with Ford, they say, oh no, we can't build EVs, we can't build our EV. Well, you keep fluctuating the price like a crazy person, and so now people who are going to buy an F-150 Lightning, let's say especially fleet managers, when you go from 40 to 50,000 to 40 to 45, like it's just That's not how you run a business if you're a fleet manager. You don't look at that and say, oh, well, it was 40, now it's 50. So do I just wait till it's 40? You know what? I'm just going to go buy the gas version.
Well, and that's exactly what's happened with Hertz and Tesla. Hertz a couple of years ago announced they were going to buy 100,000 Teslas for their rental fleet. And this year, in their Q3 earnings report, they got slammed on the residual values of those Teslas because Tesla has dropped the price of those vehicles by over 20% this year. And so their residual values plus their repair costs have been significantly higher than for their gas fleet. And so now they're slowing down. They're not buying as many Teslas because of all these other issues. If you're buying, it's one thing if you're buying one car. If you're buying thousands of them, or even hundreds of them, you need some stability in the pricing, to make sure that you're buying. You don't want to have to time when you make your purchases. You want to purchase it when you need it, not based on, trying to pick
whims.
Just the right moment, when that price is going to be lower. It's kind of ridiculous.
On the whims of whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of, so you know that was a big market for the F-150 Lightning, and then suddenly you've sort of shot that. You've sort of destroyed that by shooting yourself in the foot because you can't figure out how much your truck's going to cost to make. Which, at the time, yeah, whatever. Anyway, EVs, they're selling better than you think.
Yes, they are.
That's the long story short. When I asked somebody at Hyundai, so yeah, everyone's kind of, how are you guys doing? Everyone's like, we're not making money. And they're like, Hyundai or somebody from Hyundai or Kia was like, we're making money on our EVs. I don't know what they're doing.
and they're Hyundai Motor Group, between the three brands, Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis, is the second best selling EV total now. They're like 8, I think almost 9% of all EVs are Hyundai Motor Group EVs. Number one is still Tesla, but their market share, but their market share has dropped from 75% of all EVs in 2021 to 54% so far this year. And their sales are up, but it's a smaller slice of a bigger pie.
Yeah.
And with all the other EVs coming to market, everybody's taking away market share from them. And it's, that situation is unlikely to change.
Yeah. 54%. That's plus, they're like, oh, no one's buying EVs. I'm like, have you looked at Tesla and Kia's numbers? Have you looked at the Bolt? Have you looked at the numbers for the Bolt?
Yeah, I mean,
even selling it, the number one non-Tesla EV selling in America. And they're like, let's kill that thing.
Yeah. just because we're losing money on them, doesn't mean you got to kill it.
If you could figure it out, come on.
All right. I had an F series truck this past week as well.
But
it was not a Lightning. It was an F-250 King Ranch. Man, is this thing huge? Let me just say right off the bat, if you're looking for a daily driver, if you don't require something that can,
if you don't actually have a ranch.
Yeah. If you don't have a ranch, or you don't need to tow a 20,000-pound trailer, or tow 3,000 or 4,000, or haul 3,000 or 4,000 pounds of mulch or topsoil in one go, don't buy one of these. If you need a work truck, if you need something to push a snowplow or haul a huge trailer or anything like that, these are great. These are absolutely fantastic. But if you want something to go get groceries, don't buy a Super Duty or any other heavy duty pickup, because last Sunday my wife and I went to brunch downtown Ypsilanti, and trying to park this beast, it's almost 21 feet long. This one had the shorter bed, so it was a crew cab, but it had the 6 3/4 foot bed. You can also get it with an 8-foot bed, and so it's almost 21 feet long. It's wide. It's very tall. And trying to squeeze this into a standard parking space in a downtown area, it's not fun. Not fun at all. But on the other hand, if you do need to haul a lot of stuff, as a work truck, these things are amazing. All of these big trucks, what they can do is quite remarkable. When I did the first drive program this summer out at the Ford Michigan Proving Grounds, we had a chance to do some towing demos. We're towing a 40,000 pound trailer with one of these things, and that was actually with the 350. But I think the 250 that I had, I think maxes out at about 22,000 pounds. But a 22,000 pound trailer is a huge trailer. You can get this truck with two different variants of the 6.7 liter Power Stroke diesel. The standard version is 475 horsepower and 1,050 foot-pounds of torque. Or you can get the high output that bumps that up to 500 horsepower and 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. There's also two gas V8s, the 7.3 liter that they had in the previous generation, the Godzilla engine, and then a smaller displacement 6.8 that they added for this year. So the Super Duties were redesigned this year for 2023, and they're really impressive trucks, and they've got a lot of cool technology on them. Like, on the 150s for a couple of years now, they've had these scales under the bed and in the hitch, or load sensors under there, so you can tell how much you're loading into the bed, so you don't overload it, so you're not overloading the hitch. But the way they had it set up was the display for that was on the infotainment screen in the cab. Well, now on these on the Super Duties, I'm assuming I think they're adding this to the refreshed 150s as well, is in the taillight cluster. Now you get basically a meter. It's using the LEDs in the taillight cluster to give you a meter as you load it up, so you can tell from outside as you're loading it how much you're putting into the bed. And that's a really handy feature to have. They've got other things like in the tailgate. If you have to have the tailgate down for something, normally the backup camera on a pickup truck is mounted in the top edge of the tailgate. So when the tailgate's closed, you can see what's behind you. But with the tailgate open, you end up just seeing kind of under the back end of the truck or the ground, which is not very helpful. So they added a second camera in the top edge of the tailgate. So when the tailgate is open, you can still see get that backup camera view. And they've got all kinds of other cool technology on there, most of which was not on this one, but if you're towing one of those big trailers, and you still want to make use of things like the blind spot monitoring, you can get remote radar sensors that you can mount on your trailer that communicate with the system in the truck to give you the blind spot monitoring even on a long trailer, and same with backup cameras and things like that. So there's a lot of cool tech that they've built into this thing. And the King Ranch, of course, is one of the more luxurious trim levels. It's not the most luxurious. I think the top model is the limited, so you can get up to platinum. The limited is the top trim. So there's King Ranch, platinum, and then limited. And the F-250 limited starts at $97,000. The base F-250 XL work truck starts about $45,000. And, that's for a regular cab with steel wheels and everything. The King Ranch that I was driving starts at $77,000. And the one that I had was one of the pre-production ones that they had from the media launch. And so the Monroney didn't have the final sticker price on there, but I built it out pretty close to what was as close as I could get to what I was driving. And it came to a grand total of $94,885. You want to take a guess at the destination charge on this?
2,300.
Not quite. It was only $1,995. A mere just shy of $2,000.
Just a little bit. Well, it's a heavy truck. You got to move it.
It is. Yeah, it's
Where are they
big.
going to park
heavy.
it while they're moving it to your house?
Yeah. They do have, even with these internal combustion trucks, even though these are not hybrid or electric, they do have Pro Power on board now on these, but it's 2 kilowatts. But you get several. I think you get like 4 220 volt or 120 volt outlets in the bed, so you can power a bunch of stuff off of this for 2 kilowatts. And on the King Ranch, that they like to talk about how the owner of a business will buy a fleet of F-250s or 350s for the workers in the company, and then they'll buy something like a King Ranch or a Platinum or a Limited for themselves, or the owner of the ranch will do that. And this is a very luxurious truck, really nice leather interior, nice natural open pore wood. You got the King Ranch brand, in the seats and in the center armrest. This one has the fully reclining front seats, basically fold flat front seats. So if you need to take a nap in the afternoon, when you're getting tired of supervising your ranch hands, you can fold the seat back and take a nap back there.
Oh, you finally found a parking space after 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to sleep here.
Exactly. The Super Duties, rather than the console mounted shifter, they have a column mounted shifter, traditional style for a truck. But you don't get the at least on the King Ranch, you don't get the fold out work table, because if you're driving the King Ranch, you're the boss, so you don't have to do any work. On
out the window.
on the lesser trim levels, you can get the fold out work table, or in the case of Nicole, the cookie table for these things. And this, because it's a column shift, you don't have to bother folding down the transmission shifter on these things. So, as a truck with a lot of capability, these modern full-size trucks are, heavy duty trucks are pretty amazing, in terms of what they can do. You've got, they copied the bumper step that you have on the GM trucks that GM's had for a while, but they also added another step up ahead of the rear wheel on the side of the bed. So you can use that to step up and reach in to grab things out of the bed of the truck. Handy little features, based on, looking at what are the challenges that people that actually use these trucks face on a daily basis. Yeah. And so that was, just little things like that, little details are nice. Again, the person driving the King Ranch probably not going to care quite as much about that, but the workers that are actually doing the stuff and using an XL or an XLT to do their jobs, they will appreciate these little details. Yeah. So $95,000 2024 F-250 King Ranch. And if you go for the Limited, you can easily get it up well over $100,000, especially if you step up to a 350 or a 450 dually or something like that. You're definitely well into the 6 figures for one of these things.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia.
All right, let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on this week. A couple of things first, leftovers from the LA Auto Show that we didn't get to last week. Hyundai at their press conference, they showed off the new Santa Fe, which we've talked about before, which is a very different looking Santa Fe from the previous generations, much blockier, chunkier looking than prior generations. But then they've shown it overseas over the last couple of months, but this was the first time they showed it live in North America. And as part of unveiling it,
they drove it out of a giant Amazon box. And the reason why they did that is because Hyundai's done a deal with Amazon so that starting in sometime in 2024, if you want to buy a Hyundai vehicle, new Hyundai vehicle, you can go shop for it on Amazon.com. There will have a Hyundai storefront on Amazon, and you can go in there and price it out, get all the information, configure it, get it just the way you want. And then when you hit, add to cart and buy, or buy now, then your order will get transmitted over to a local Hyundai dealer of your choice, and you'll be able to pick it up, or in some cases even have it delivered by your Hyundai dealer. What do you think? Would you buy your new car through Amazon.com, or would you rather go to a dealer?
Well, I mean, the dealer's getting the money either way.
Yeah.
To be honest, my only question that doesn't seem to be answered in all of this is dealer markups, because the dealer still has the power. So can they still mark it up? Can you still I'm going to buy this? You price it out. Say it's 52,000, and then you go to let me pick up dealer, and oh, now it's 58,000. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, my understanding is that they will the price that they show you on there is the price it's going to be.
But is it the price based on the already adding a markup, because they look at the geographic area of where you're at anyway, and they're like, okay, this is what the markups are. Let's just add that already.
Yeah, that's still unclear. So
that's if it's without the dealer markups, I'm like, woohoo, that's great.
Yeah.
If it is, then I'm fine, whatever. I guess I'm buying socks, and I can get a car.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking. What would be funny is if they, if you ordered a new Hyundai on Amazon.com and they delivered it, by Prime the next day, towing it to your house behind a Rivian electric delivery truck.
Oh yeah, and they just leave by your front door. They don't.
Yeah,
they take a picture of it.
And then it shows up in your email.
That plasticky.
Your new Ioniq 5 has been delivered. It's sitting on your porch.
There's a picture of it. It's still in that little bag. Okay. How do they even get it up here?
Yeah, so that's going to launch sometime in probably mid 2024. Still a lot of details to be worked out. We'll have to see, about things like markups, how that's going to work.
Because that's what really, when you look at people who, I just don't want to deal with markups. I'm like, well, there's Tesla and there's Polestar.
Yeah.
And Rivian. So there you go. If you don't have to shop around, you don't have to make sure you're getting ripped off in one way or another. That's sad. That's the state of buying a vehicle in the United States. Is well, I'm probably going to get ripped off, aren't I?
Yep, probably. Well, at least if it's a popular vehicle, if it's something in short supply.
HRV. My cousin got hit with a markup for the HRV. The HRV.
But on the other side, the flip side of that is that for years, when we've had more supply than demand, that's when you've been able to negotiate. It's the supply demand thing. When there's more supply and less demand, the prices go down. And when it's the other way around, these are private businesses. And even Tesla, despite making claims that they don't negotiate on pricing and things like that, they regularly change their prices based on how sales are going. If they're hitting their sales targets, they'll keep prices the same or even raise them sometimes. And if sales are slowing down, they will drop prices. We talked about that earlier. They've dropped prices on most of their models over 20% since the beginning of this year. And so, you're going to get, whether you're buying it from a Hyundai dealer or a Tesla dealer, or directly from Tesla, if there's more demand than there is supply, you're going to end up paying. It's just the reality of a marketplace. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, but if I buy a PlayStation, no matter how much the PlayStation is, if I go to Best Buy, it's the same cost for the PlayStation.
Well, that's true up to a point. But that assumes that Best Buy has any stock.
I'd rather,
and then you got to, if they don't, you got to buy it from a scalper, and then you can end up paying 2 or 3 times the price.
But then you also have the issue where people are they've ordered a car, they told the car there's going to be this much, and then the car arrives. Like, oh yeah, it's $20,000 more, and you're just like
that's wrong. I mean, if you sign a sales contract for a car at a particular price, and you place an order, then they should honor that price.
It's just, and then at the end of the day, the people are angry at the automaker.
Yeah,
it's not the automaker's fault that this person decided to upcharge you $40,000.
Yeah, the manufacturer has limited control. I mean, they're trying to do stuff, but there's only so much they can do because of the franchise laws.
Yeah,
but even there, we've seen Ford this year say, okay, well, we can't control what the dealers charge. We can't control dealers charging markups on Mavericks, but we can just raise our price, which is what they've done. You can't buy a $20,000 Maverick anymore. The minimum starting price for a Maverick now is almost $24,000. It's 20% more than it was.
You can't get the hybrid because they didn't realize people would want it.
Yeah. I mean, hybrids account for 57% of Maverick sales this year.
And then they're like,
now the hybrid has gone from being the standard powertrain option to a $1,500 extra. So, for a while there, OEMs could say, well, we don't have any control of this, but now they're taking control of it by just raising their own prices, raising the MSRP.
Yeah.
So they're taking that extra margin instead of the dealers.
Ford's price changes have kind of bit them in the ass.
Yeah.
With the Lightning.
Yeah, definitely on the Lightning and the Mach-E. All right. The other interesting bit of news from Hyundai was the night before the show. They had an event where they had the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which they were showing in the U.S. for the first time. They've shown it overseas in recent months. But Till Wartenberg, who is the new vice president and head of N brand and motorsport at Hyundai, was there, and he was showing off the Ioniq 5N. And after the presentation, I chatted with him for a couple of minutes. And one of the things that he had talked about during the presentation was, the importance of motorsport to the Hyundai brand. They've gotten involved in touring car racing and rally in the last decade, and had more and more participation in motorsports. And so I asked him, if motorsports is going to be so important for Hyundai going forward. One of the challenges with a car like the Ioniq 5N, which is at this point, at least, the pillar of their performance strategy, it's their highest performance vehicle by fairly wide margin. There's nowhere where you can race a car like that, where you can race an EV like that. There's no classes for that. And I asked him, what about, are you considering a one make series? We've got one make series for a lot of other brands, like Porsche and Ferrari and Lamborghini, and Ford's launching one for the Mustang Dark Horse this year or in 2024. And there's lots of other one make series. Would you consider doing something like that for the Ioniq 5N? And he just smiled and said, stay tuned.
Oh, that means yes.
Yeah. So hopefully that could be really interesting. A single make racing series, a support series for, like the Michelin Pilot Challenge, where they run the Elantra N's, and they've been winning regularly with the Elantra N. Having a support race for that with the 5N, the Ioniq 5N, that could be pretty cool.
That'd be dope. Everyone seems to love the 5N. I haven't driven it yet.
Yeah, neither have I. It'll be interesting to see what it's like, with the simulated manual shifting, and the engine sounds, simulating the engine sounds, things like that. They want to make it sound like a performance car and feel, have the feel of a performance car, rather than just being kind of antiseptic. It's the problem is, it's the sounds and the things that they're doing are not authentic to an electric vehicle. They're simulating, things from an internal combustion vehicle. And then, I asked them about that, and they said, yeah, but the sound and the feel, those torque blips when you shift and things like that, those are part of the feedback that a driver gets when they're driving fast. It's part of knowing what the vehicle is doing, where it's at. And I think, at least for now, while people are transitioning from internal combustion vehicles, that's probably true, because you do use more than just your eyes. You use all your senses when you're driving fast.
I rarely look at the tach.
Yeah. It's
when I'm driving,
listening to the engine.
It's all about listening. Yeah.
Yeah. Listening and feeling for that change in acceleration as you shift and things like that. And feeling, getting that feeling, as you're approaching the red line, and, your power, you've gotten past your power peak, and you're starting to, the acceleration is starting to taper off. That's one of your signals that, okay, it's time to shift. And I guess the question is, once we have drivers that grow up just purely on EVs, that have never driven an internal combustion vehicle with a conventional transmission, will they still need that?
Yeah. Will it be a whir?
Yeah.
That's my impression of EVs with manual transmissions. I'm available for weddings and bar mitzvahs.
You can even bring along a band.
I can bring a band, but mostly I'm just going to do that. I'm here for 90 minutes. 10 minutes will be my band. 80 minutes will be me going.
All right. Well, looking forward to trying out the Ioniq 5N sometime next year.
Yeah, it should be awesome. Hopefully.
All right. Speaking of high performance vehicles that are at least partially electrified, there's a new generation of Porsche Panamera, third generation of the Panamera. It was announced this week. It doesn't look dramatically different from the second generation Panamera.
Yeah, which is, to be honest, good.
Yeah.
We don't want to, they've had their share of okay, we got it. You got it. Don't change it.
Yeah. I mean, the first generation Panamera was a little funky looking. Yeah. Because one of the design briefs on the original Panamera was that Wendell Weidking, who was the CEO of Porsche at the time, he stipulated that he had to be able to fit comfortably in the back seat, and he was 6'4". So, that's why you had that kind of humpback profile to the original Panamera. But the second generation went much more coupe-like and is much sleeker design. And this one is pretty similar to that. But they, one of the big changes, ever since the first gen Panamera, they've offered a plug-in hybrid variant of it. And actually, in the second and now the third generation, they've got multiple different plug-in hybrid variants. You can get it with a V6 or a V8 engine, different power levels. And the big change for the third generation is they've bumped up the size of the battery from 17.9 kilowatt hours to 25.9 kilowatt hours. So it's about a 40% bump in battery size.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And in the top Panamera Turbo e-hybrid, it now has 670 horsepower, 685 pound-feet of torque, which is, that's kind of similar ballpark to the BMW XM. And the outgoing Panamera, with the V6, it was rated at 19 miles of electric range, and the V8 was 17 miles of electric range. So this new one will probably be somewhere around 30 miles of electric range, which is pretty good for a vehicle with this kind of performance.
I've talked to Porsche about the Panamera and its hybrid system, and they're like, it's not an efficiency play per se. It's not like you're going to get a lot of miles like a RAV4. It's a lot of, you're going to be able to go real fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a performance hybrid, but still,
the
30 miles on your in your Panamera around town, just cruising.
Yeah.
Is pretty
it's
nice.
It's a 187 horsepower electric motor with lots of torque. So when you plug it in, you can drive around town without using any gas. Do most of your daily driving, and then when you need that performance, it's there.
Yeah. I haven't driven this one, but I like the second generation Panamera. I liked it more than I thought I would, which I think everyone did. I think everyone's like, oh no, here we go again. And then like, oh.
All right. Next up, let's see. Magna Steyr has been selected by Volkswagen to do the development work on the new Scout EVs, on the pickup truck and the SUV.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, Magna knows what they're doing.
They know how to make cars.
Yeah. And, they've shown, earlier this year, I went to a Magna event at the Hollyoaks ORV Park north of Detroit, and they were showing off, their electric drive stuff in a prototype Gladiator with their electric axles on there. And they also had a Sierra, 4-wheel drive Sierra pickup. And so I'm guessing, that a lot of that technology that we saw on those is probably going to make its way into these Scout vehicles. What'll be interesting is whether they go with solid axle design, because one of the things on the Gladiator, they had solid axles on that, or at least on the rear. I can't remember the front. The front axle was also a solid axle. And usually for serious off-roading, off-roaders like to have solid axles for maximum articulation, and keeping the wheels in contact with the ground. And since Scout is kind of going after this Jeep Bronco market, I'll be really curious to see if they go the route that Rivian went with independent suspension all around, and also Hummer, or if they go with the more traditional solid axle layout, but electric.
That's a toughie.
What do you think?
Because I'm curious, like how the average person who's buying, like, let's say a Wrangler, probably doesn't really know about the solid axles. They're like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. But it looks good on the when you can point at it and at a presentation. Like, they have to make a really really big deal out of it in order for it to pay off. Because just adding it on there, and again, 95% of the people who buy this aren't going to take it off road. But I think you say, well, it's got a solid axle or whatever they want to call it. I can't think of anything witty for solid axle. The solid electrified axle.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, my guess is that VW Group probably wouldn't want to go that direction.
Yeah, but the group itself, but
because they're creating this, or reviving this brand, and it's going to be a separate brand, and a separate platform, because they're not just using the same hardware that they're going to be using on all the other group electric vehicles. It's something distinct, and so they might, and especially because they're reviving that Scout brand, which was that was an off-road vehicle.
It's also, I mean, it's run by Scott Keogh, who's just ready to party, really, to be honest. He's ready. He's like, yeah, we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a smart guy. I mean, he's a good
smart
marketer.
Guy.
He knows what he's doing. And so I think, by going after, the people that remember the Scout brand, the international Scout brand, I think they might just do that. So we'll see.
Seems like something Scout would do.
We got a couple of years. We got a couple of years to find out. All right. Next, Cruise. We haven't talked about Cruise in a few weeks.
Why do you want the? Well, if we can help it. Well, the CEO resigned. I'm just going to put air quotes around that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there was a resignation without some Like, hey, we wrote this letter for you about you to resign. If you could just sign it really quick, that'd be awesome.
And we've already drafted a couple of tweets for you. Yeah, we'll post them.
Yeah, they're all ready to go.
Yeah.
You're a rich man. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kyle Vogt, the co-founder of Cruise and CEO, and who's the other guy? The other co-founder, both resigned last week, and the head of engineering, Mo Elshanaway, is taking over as president and CTO of Cruise. And GM has put some, let's say, some more adults back in the room on the board and in charge of policy at Cruise in the past week or so. And Cruise, ever since there was just days after the last time I rode in a Cruise vehicle in Austin in late September, we had this accident in San Francisco where a pedestrian was struck by a human-driven vehicle, was thrown into the path of a Cruise vehicle, and then the Cruise vehicle ran over her, and then continued to go for another 20 feet, doing what it was programmed to do, which was pull over and come to a safe stop, but probably shouldn't have done that when there's somebody underneath the car.
Yeah, dragged them.
Yeah. So there's basically been a pretty fundamental change in strategy for Cruise. I mean, I think a big part of this, and I've been talking to a lot of people over the last couple of weeks about Cruise. A big part of this, why this happened, and a lot of the other problems they've had in San Francisco is they've tried to expand too rapidly. Ever since Dan Amon left Cruise in 2021, and Kyle Vogt took back the CEO position, they have expanded aggressively. And at the time of the accident, they were running vehicles in 10 different cities. So in the course of just over a year, they'd gone from one city, from San Francisco, to 10 different cities across the U.S. And they wanted to be in even more. And they wanted to get their origin purpose-built robo-taxis on the road. GM had apparently built somewhere between 400 and 500 of those over the course of this year, while they were waiting for NHTSA to give approval to operate those on public roads, because the Origin doesn't have any traditional human controls and doesn't have things like mirrors and other things that a human-driven vehicle needs, but you don't technically need for an AV. And GM stopped building those vehicles, and they've now said that they have no plans to build any more in 2024. If and when Cruise does resume testing, they're going to focus on just one city again, go back to testing in one place, and really try and sort out their safety issues and sort out all the problems and then expand much more slowly than what they've done over the last year. And I think that's a good strategy.
Well, I mean, we've both had conversations with Kyle, and he is not a fan of pushback.
No.
Of his narrative. That's the nicest thing I can say. Is that, or like, well, what about the immediate flash? I'm like, well, this is not going to end well, unfortunately. Yeah. And you're building, when you're building a company that has to be incredibly safe, and you're building a service that has to be incredibly safe, and your main concern is shareholder and scale, you shouldn't be building that company. That's because you're talking, you're putting lives, clearly you're putting lives at risk on the road, like just regular people. We're beta testing on the road. I'm like, I didn't sign anything for that.
Yeah.
And, there was a big push in California because they were trying to push a law that you had to have safety drivers, and all these AV companies were like, no, we don't want to have safety drivers. We don't want to have safety drivers. You're slowing down innovation. I'm like, how is having someone who's just there in case things go wrong slowing down innovation? So it's none of that is based on, a lot of this push by AV companies isn't based on safety. It's based on, okay, we have all these shareholders who have given us money. We have to show progress. And unfortunately, when you're talking about driving a car autonomously, progress is going to be really, really slow because you're trying to recreate how a human drives and better. And as humans, we have a lot of experience with everything, and we can make decisions without having a software update.
Yeah.
So it's super, super difficult. Again, I'm a big fan of AVs once they actually are safe and they work on the road, because there are a lot of people in the world who can't drive, and there's a lot of people who don't need to drive. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of potential societal benefits from automated driving technology, but we have to do it right.
Yeah, we have to do it right, and also, just put more buses out there. All that money, think of all the bus lines and light rails we could have in these cities where they're running these things that would have gotten people places with just one driver with pulling, 60, 80 people.
Well, when I was in Korea in October, one of the people I spoke with was actually somebody who works for the public transit operator in Geneva, Switzerland. He was there at the same time. And the reason he was there, he's looking. The Geneva public transit system has been testing Navia shuttles for several years now, and they're fine, but they have a lot of limitations. And one of the things that they're trying to address is they want to provide more service, better service to more people, and you can do that with buses, but the challenge is, buses are large, and if you have a lot of buses that are carrying very few people, it becomes economically unviable. And so how do you provide service to more people in more places? So there's a lot of routes where buses work great, where you got, a lot of people going in the same direction, same time. Buses, perfect solution for that. But what you really need to provide the best service to the most people is you need a mix of different kinds of vehicles.
It's the last mile problem.
Yeah. And so, like in Geneva, the what's known as the canton of Geneva, it's kind of like a county, like a large county area, outside the city of Geneva proper. There's all these smaller towns and villages that they also have to provide service to. People need to get in and out of Geneva and things like that. And they need smaller vehicles for that. And one of the challenges that they have is just like we have here in the US with truck drivers, is not enough people that actually want to drive trucks. They don't have enough people that want to drive buses. The average age of their bus drivers in Switzerland or in Europe is 50 years old. And they're getting older all the time, and they have a hard time recruiting younger people. And so to provide better service, you need more vehicles. But if you can't have drivers, how do you provide that service without drivers? And that's why they're looking at automation.
I'm curious if Geneva is like the problem in Geneva is also that it's incredibly expensive to be in Geneva.
Well,
I had
yeah.
rabbit for lunch once in Geneva, $120. For lunch.
A lot of other cities too. I mean, you look at San Francisco, a lot of people that, need to get in and out of San Francisco for jobs, or any other city really. And how do you provide service to the areas where, there's fewer people that are going in the same direction? You might have lots of people, but they might be going in different directions. And so how do you provide robust service for all of those people? And so having smaller vehicles that are more flexible, and then the other side of that is, you don't have consistent demand from passengers all day long. And so you want to have vehicles that you can also use to do other things like provide deliveries. And, something like the Cruise Origin would have been a great solution for them.
There's so many, there's last mile issues, there's mobility issues. Like, I can't drive because of a mobility issue, but that doesn't mean I can walk 12 blocks to the bus stop either.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you're in a wheelchair, it's a lot harder, or even if you're not in a chair, if you have to use a walker. So being able to pick up and drop people off, closer to where they are or where they need to be is important. And so that's why this technology is so important, but we need to do it right. And we need to have oversight. We can't allow these companies to self-certify.
Yeah, no, this is definitely, there needs to be some overlords who are, because again, these are our lives.
Yeah. So if and when Cruise does come back, they'll be coming back a lot smaller, sticking with the bolts they have for now. And eventually
because they're going to run out of they're going to run out of bolts.
Well, they have 400 of them in their fleet, so
Right.
they don't need that many right now. They want to get their problems sorted out first before they transition to the Origin.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Oh, New Jersey. New Jersey's decided they're going to ban internal combustion engines, which is, following a bunch of other states, which is great. But
they're banning the sale of internal combustion engines, just so people know that, because sometimes people are like, I can't have my my Mustang GT. No, you can still have the car that you bought.
You just can't buy new ICE vehicles.
Yeah.
But New Jersey is the last state in the country that does not allow people to pump their own gas. You have to have a gas station attendant to pump gas for you in New Jersey.
Oh, because Oregon just changed.
Yeah, Oregon changed just like in the last couple of months. So you can pump your own gas in Oregon now. But New Jersey's the last one. And I'm wondering, what are they going to do when they switch to EVs? Are they going to have an attendant there that plugs in your car for you?
I mean, to be honest, having an attendant at an EV charging station is like one of the things I think that they should have had forever.
Yeah.
Like, this is broken. Let me fix this really quick. Hold on. Let me plug in your EV.
Yeah. Somebody that knows how to reset the charger, how to do a Control-Alt-Delete on the charger.
Yeah. Did he just sit in a little box and wait all day? Draw. Hold on. Plug.
So maybe it's not the worst idea in the world.
Yeah. Have some. I don't know when I wrote this. It feels like 100 years ago, but I wrote that like EV stations need to be better, and it turned and then Mercedes built one.
Yeah, yeah. Their new station that they just opened up, the first of their network in Atlanta, looks pretty slick.
Yeah, I got an email that sounded like they wanted, like someone wanted to be a fly out there like the day before to go see it. I'm like, and then it was just the news. It was just the way, it was just weird. Yeah. The writing was just weird in the pitch. I'm like,
all right. One of the big things that there's been a lot of talk about around EVs for years now is solid state batteries. The idea being that if we can get to replace the liquid electrolyte that's in the cells with some kind of solid material, the batteries become more durable, they become safer. You can't have short circuits when you got solid material around there instead of a liquid. And
denser,
better energy density. A bunch of
quicker charge, all the things,
the energy density, all the things you want in a battery.
So you could have a smaller battery, like less weight for the same range, and it charges really quickly. It's the holy grail, which is something you should never say about anything because it's lazy writing, but it's the holy grail.
It's lazy podcasting.
It's lazy podcasting. Sorry, everyone.
But yeah, so Toyota in the last few years has looked like one of the potential leaders in this space. They've been making some interesting claims that we're going to have solid state batteries coming pretty soon, and they have working prototypes, and a lot of companies have built working prototypes of solid state batteries. Solid Power just delivered their first batch of cells to BMW of their solid state cells, and there's others. QuantumScape is out there, and a bunch of other companies. But now it looks like even Toyota does not expect solid state batteries to be mainstream this decade, which is relatively consistent with what I've heard from a lot of companies. Most of them don't expect it till late 2020s.
Yeah, I mean the joke is that solid state batteries is always 5 years away. It's been 5 years away for 15 years.
Yeah, just like fuel cells.
We're 5 years away from it. We almost got it. This is I've had excited CEOs. I've had excited CEOs of automakers come up and talk to me about solid. I'm like, cool. I'm like, so you think? Yeah. We're just. I think we're gonna have it in 2 or 3 years. We're working with this one company, and then, it doesn't quite work out.
Yeah. So. When I was at Nissan in October, they were talking about their solid state batteries, and they don't really expect them to be in any kind of volume till at least 27, 28 time frame. And even that, is probably fairly optimistic. And Toyota is now saying that, we expect we'll only have enough solid state batteries for about 10,000 EVs in 2030, which is not great.
I mean, what year is it now? 2023?
It's almost 2024.
So we got 6 years. So it's 6 years, so 5 years away. Listen, if they can make, a couple 30,000, 20,000 that they're on the road, that's progress, to be honest. And if it means we're going to get mass adoption or mass availability in 2033, 10 years from now, fine. It still beats that 2035, where everyone's, people think the sky is going to fall. I'm like, it's a long way to 2035 for California, New Jersey, Washington, I think Virginia, and a couple other states and Europe. So it's, they're still doing a lot of crazy things with lithium to make that better. But, one day we'll get those solid state batteries. One day. Eventually, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Fingers toast.
All right. Let's talk about Tesla a bit.
Oh no.
Back in May of 2016, there was the first known crash of a Tesla with Autopilot. And that was Joshua Brown. His car was an Autopilot driving on a rural highway in Florida. And it did not stop or even slow down when there was a truck turning left in front of him across the roadway and drove right under it. And if you haven't seen the photos, you can imagine what happened next. Then in 2019, and there have been many other crashes, but in 2019, also in Florida, in Palm Beach County, Jeremy Banner was driving his Model 3 in a nearly identical crash. The truck was turning across the highway in front of him. The car was in Autopilot, did not even slow down, sliced the top half off the car.
Yeah.
And his wife is suing Tesla. And this week, a judge in Florida said the suit against Tesla can go to trial. It's a product liability suit. The Palm Beach County Judge Reed Scott ruled that there was reasonable evidence to conclude the Tesla owner and CEO Elon Musk and other company executives knew that the vehicle's autopilot system was defective, but they continued to tout its capabilities and sell it anyway. And they continue to do that to this day, by the way. That last part was mine. So this could potentially be one of the first product liability suits against Autopilot that actually has a reasonable chance. We'll see. One of the challenges with anybody trying to sue Tesla is, if you read the terms and conditions for using Autopilot or FSD, it says the driver is responsible, the driver's always in charge. You're supposed to supervise the system, keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. And that's what happened in another recent case where a jury ruled in favor of Tesla that it was a wrongful death suit, and said that driver is responsible. And so I'll be curious to see how this one plays out, because the weasel language in Tesla's marketing has always kind of saved them in these cases.
Yeah.
And
But it isn't. It really hurts them is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Because Elon Musk has said things that are that the marketing department, the sales department, they don't say. But he's essentially their advertiser. And so for years he's been saying things that were dangerous, I guess is the
reckless.
word. Reckless.
Reckless is the word I like to use. Reckless.
Yeah,
and
reckless. When Tesla had a PR team, when I would get past Teslas and I'd review them, any of these vehicles, I'd always make it a point in the videos to say you cannot buy a self-driving car. This is not a self-driving car. And I had people at Tesla who had thanked me for that because it helped them Because
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of good people at Tesla that are trying to do the right thing.
Lots of just really smart, really nice, really good people who really believe in the plan. And like we're helping reduce the impact of personal transportation to the planet. We're helping reduce that. That's what we're doing. We're working to make better vehicles for a cleaner tomorrow. There are people who are there. They are still there because they still believe in that. They believe in that. And it's. I think when people assume that I hate Tesla, I don't hate Tesla per se. I just don't feel happy.
Yeah.
when the CEO just goes on Twitter and just says probably some of the worst things you could say, and then he's I just want an adult at Tesla. That's really all I want. I just want him to retire or to go do something else or get ousted by a board. I think I just want a Tim Apple. a Tim Cook ready. I wrote this article for TechCrunch. You can go read it. It was essentially that Tesla needs a Tim Cook, and they just need someone who can just go in, get the trains running on time. And I think since he's busy with Twitter, I think Tesla's probably doing better because he's not around.
Yeah.
It's like Michael Scott.
He's been preoccupied.
He's preoccupied, so the folks over there can do
the
things.
They're starting to roll out version 12 of FSD now to internal testers, and so I don't know if that's much better.
Well, I don't. Yeah, that whole thing is. I mean, that's an edict from the top.
Yeah.
Which is really. I mean, I don't know. Just you could just focus on EVs.
Yeah.
Just make the best darn EVs in the world, and give us a dash cluster. I would rather have a dash cluster than FSD any day.
Yep.
Just give me a dash cluster. A bit. The seats in the back a bit more comfortable. The seats in the front, a little bit more comfortable. Just scooch. And there you go. Make a wagon too. Why not? Or I can just go out and buy a Hyundai. That's the crazy thing, is I can just go out and buy a Hyundai, which is something you couldn't do before. I can go buy an EV6 if I want a EV wagon.
Yep. All right. Well, sticking with Tesla, a couple of years ago, they started offering their own insurance because it turns out, if you've ever shopped for insurance for a Tesla, a lot of insurance companies charge a lot more to insure a Tesla than other vehicles, in large part because when they need repairs, they tend to be very expensive to repair, because Tesla retains control of the parts supply, especially for body work. They have, there's very limited places where you can get body work done on a Tesla if you have a crash or a fender bender. And they tend to be very costly to repair. And so insurance was expensive. So Tesla decided to launch their own insurance program. And they started off, I think, just in California. And I think they're in about a dozen states now where you can buy your car insurance through Tesla, directly through Tesla. But Reuters had a report this week that I guess a lot of customers aren't really crazy about the Tesla insurance. One of the things that Tesla does, because they have all this information about your car, that they're gathering about how you drive, where you drive, and everything. One of the things that they can do, and to be fair, other automakers are trying to do the same thing. So they want to gather information. Insurance companies have always used demographic information about drivers and correlated that with what drivers in the same demographic do, their risk profile. So for example, 16-year-old males tend to have much higher insurance premiums than 16-year-old females, or
they're crazy,
or 40-year-old women. Because they tend to be more reckless. And with the sensors that we have on cars now and the fact that they're connected, insurers are able to get much more granular information about not just a specific demographic, but about individual drivers and your behavior. And other companies like Progressive and many other insurance companies now will offer you a dongle that you can plug into your OBD2 port It captures information about how frequently you hard accelerate or hard brake and things like that. And they will give you discounts on your insurance premiums. But up to this point, they've shied away from charging you more if you had certain behaviors. Tesla has not shied away from that. With their insurance program, they calculate a safety score in real time as you drive, and your insurance premium can fluctuate from month to month. If your safety score goes up, your insurance premiums could go down. If your safety score goes down, your insurance premiums can go up, way, way up. One of the things in this article here, there was, they talked to one customer who had taken their car in for service at a Tesla service center, and the technician at the service center had taken the car out, to test it after doing some work on it, and had driven it quite aggressively, which caused the owner's safety score to go down, because while the system knows, how each individual car is being driven, it doesn't necessarily know who's sitting behind the wheel when it's driven that way.
Oh, womp womp.
And
like you can't put it in service mode, I guess.
I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a service mode or not.
Well, that person didn't. How's that?
Yeah. But even just, for normal driving, I guess the customer service from Tesla Insurance has not been great. There's in the story, they talk about this one Tesla owner who bought a used Tesla, bought a used Model S, got into a crash with Autopilot engaged. The car started beeping and lurched left, striking a median and flipping over. He escaped through a window as the car filled with smoke. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital with back injuries that later required surgery. This guy was a former Green Beret, and he said, "This is probably the second most traumatic thing I've gone through other than being in combat." He said he had to wait 7 months for payment on the totaled vehicle and still hasn't been compensated for more than $50,000 in medical expenses. So if you buy a Tesla, you may want to reconsider, getting your insurance through Tesla.
Because insurance is never fun to deal with, regardless. No. Like we had a fender bender with the BRZ after we first got it, but it wasn't fun, but they got it done in a timely fashion.
Yeah. And most insurance companies, will pay you out fairly quickly. If your car is written off or needs to be repaired, it's usually a matter of days or at most a couple of weeks, to get a payout so that you can go and, replace the vehicle. If you're relying on that vehicle for transportation, the last thing you want is to have to wait months, especially if you just bought the vehicle and you're still making payments on it, to wait 7 months to get a payout on that before you can go buy another vehicle. That's not good.
No.
So, like I said, you may want to shop elsewhere for your insurance. Even though you may end up paying higher insurance premiums, it might be worth it to buy your insurance somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then the final Tesla story is
so many Tesla stories.
Yeah. So later this week, and it's Sunday, November 26th, as we're recording this. On Thursday, I think the 30th, Tesla is supposed to hold an event at their Austin factory, where they're supposed to do the first customer deliveries of Cybertrucks. And I think what I've heard is that they're going to deliver 10 trucks on Thursday. And that may be all that get delivered for the remainder of this year.
All you got to deliver is one by the end of the year.
But a guy in Vietnam
can say that.
Yep. A guy in Vietnam decided he didn't want to wait.
Yeah.
And so he built his own Cybertruck out of wood.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Splinter-orama, but still pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, he did shellac it and everything, sprayed it down with, so hopefully there's not too many splinters, but it looks, it's not full scale. It is electric. And looks like he built a little cyber quad for his kid as well that rolls into the back. But I think this actually looks better than the stainless steel version.
It does look better. I like this wood. They should have a wood wrap for the Cybertruck. If Elon Musk listens to this podcast.
Well, you know what? Even if Tesla doesn't offer one, I'm sure that there's some place that will do a wood wrap for your Cybertruck or any other car.
I was just thinking about Elon Musk listening to this podcast every week.
Yeah.
Just getting angry and angrier at us.
I remember when I was back in, I think 2007 or something, I was covering the Woodward Dream Cruise when I was with Autoblog, and walking around to the various areas where different brands had where people were parking their vehicles, and there was a section in Birmingham, Michigan, where there was hundreds of Fords parked there, and there was somebody that had a cherry Ford Bronco. And when I say cherry Ford Bronco, I don't mean just one that was in immaculate condition. And this was a first generation Bronco. I mean, it was literally made out of cherry wood, the whole body. Yeah, it was gorgeous. I'll have to find it. But this thing was pretty amazing. But this Cybertruck looks pretty cool as well. And it's worth taking a few minutes. I think the video is, I think, about 8 minutes long. You can see the whole process the guy went through building this thing, fabricating the frame and all the body panels and the seats, and everything is made of wood, except the tires and, of course, the wiring and the electric motor. But it's fun, and then you see him driving it around, and it's pretty cool. So,
as far as I can tell, will not pass any safety regulations.
No,
again,
almost certainly
splinters everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't look. It also doesn't look like it's got a powerful enough motor that it's going to be too much of a problem.
Yeah, he's just cruising that thing around.
All right, let's answer a couple of listener questions. First up, Stephen Kimmel wrote in, says he saw this link in a recent Wall Street Journal article about how many car dealers are not interested in selling EVs. It looks like a very handy website for potential EV buyers to figure out where to start, especially the inexperienced. The site has good filter tools. They also offer a 1-hour phone consultation for $149 to discuss the buyer's use case and answer questions. And there's a link to a site called ev.guide, which I will include in the show notes. So if you're looking for, a first-time buyer's guide for EVs, and I checked it out, you can go through and pick different form factors and what kind of range and price and a whole bunch of other things, and it'll help you narrow down your search to figure out what is the right EV for your use case. So cool. Thank you, Stephen, for sending that in. And then the other one is from C Rose, and ask, hello, greatest podcasters ever. I have 2 questions. Number 1, I have a Hyundai Kona EV lease coming up in August and thinking if the Volvo EX30 might be a good replacement. The number 1 issue which I have with my Kona is the back seat. Who would have thought? I can't put in an infant car seat into the base without moving the front seat forward. Is the back seat of the EX30 bigger than that? And does the door open wider? I'm thinking I should put down a deposit on one. So I can definitely attest that the back seat is bigger in the EX30 compared to the Kona.
That's not hard, to be honest. As the owner of a Kona, I mean, it's great for if you put adults back there to cruise around town, but mostly we just have the dogs. It's really just for dogs who don't put their feet down in the footwells. Yeah,
I drove the EX30 when I was in LA, and I set the front seat, for my height, I'm about 5'11", and then got in the back seat, and I had, it was, not like the back seat of the F-250 Super Duty, but I had enough room, that I had clearance for my knees and for my head. So you will definitely be able to get a kid's seat into the back of the EX30. And the starting price of just $35,000, it should actually be pretty good. And one of the things that Volvo will be doing with the EX30 is it will be available through Care by Volvo, or you can do a regular lease, and they'll be passing through, even though it's not assembled in North America. They're doing the commercial lease thing where they'll pass through the $7,500 tax credit. So if you decide to lease or do the Care by Volvo subscription, you can get that. You'll get that fairly hefty discount on that. So that'll be a pretty good deal. Not sure about whether the door opens wider than the Kona.
Try to look at the doors.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a picture of a door open. It looks pretty wide.
Yeah. It's a large enough door aperture that you'll definitely be able to get your kids in and out fairly easily.
Just wander into a Volvo dealer with your kids thing. Be like, hold on, I'm doing something.
It wouldn't surprise me if a Volvo dealer actually had some spare car seats in the back. Just to show people, here's how you install the car seat in this car, and you can try it out. But I'm sure they would not be too upset if you walked in with your car seat and said, "Hey, can I try this out in the EX30?" Because Volvo is all about the safety. So,
yeah, that's their jam.
All right. And the other question was trying to import my mother's 2018 Prius from Canada after she got a new one and sold this one to me. But Toyota Canada will not provide me with a compliance letter, which is required to import and title it. My question is, why wouldn't they provide it? Are they trying to avoid Americans from buying Canadian trims? Is there any way I could get one or import my car without it? Any ideas would be greatly appreciated.
See, there's this rule, and it's 25 years.
Well,
which is,
I mean, when I first moved to the U.S. in 1990, I had my GMC S15, which was a Canadian one, and I went to the Secretary of State's office here in Michigan, and I registered it. I got a Michigan driver's license, swapped my Ontario driver's license for a Michigan license and registered my S15, and it was no issue at all. So I think if you have title to it, like if you title it in Canada first, so if your mom, will sign it over to you and you can get a Canadian title first, I can't guarantee this is going to work. And then bring it in. And it may depend on what state you're in. Like if you're in California, some states may be stricter about this. Maybe if you try to register it in Michigan, they may be pretty lax about it. So, I would, reach out to your local state DMV and ask them, what's actually required. And perhaps if you have the Canadian title to it first, then it might be easier, but no guarantees.
I kind of researched this, buying a car in Mexico and then bringing it back. And it was essentially it just felt, at first they talked about the 25-year rule, where you can import, cars after they've been on the market for 25 years. And then everyone's just like, well, you can drive it around for like a year, then you got to take it back. You got to re-register it, and then you can bring it back up, and then you can take it back. Yeah, it's a lot of, like, I had to have a house in Mexico, which, I can just put, a family member's house in Mexico. But it was a lot.
Yeah, so my guess is California is probably going to be the strictest about this.
Yeah.
So depending on what state you're in, it may be a little easier. But I would check with your state DMV, see what they say. From Toyota's perspective, I don't think that they care so much about Americans buying Canadian trims, because I doubt that they're substantially different. But for emissions purposes, if it hasn't, there may be slightly different calibrations on the Canadian ones. So they may, even though they may have the same hardware, it may be that you just need to get a software update for it.
Oh, maybe.
And then do an emissions test on it. Maybe as simple as that, because I doubt that there's anything substantially different from a hardware perspective between the Canadian version and the US version. And so perhaps with a software update and an emissions test, that might be all you need. So yeah, check with your state and see what they say. Or, just park it at your mom's house until 2043.
Or you just drive it around. just drive around in the Canadian car. Who's going to bother you?
Leave the Canadian license plate on it.
Yeah. Who's going to bother you, to be honest? Like, is there going to be like that one cop in town who's like a hard nose who's going to, I mean, you're going to have to just keep registering it in Canada at I guess your mom's address, but who cares? That was my thing about buying the vehicle out of Mexico. And I'm like, no one's going to care if I'm driving around this car with like, Mexican plates on it. No one cares. That's not a thing they care about. They don't even know how to write the ticket. They're like, oh man, what's this ticket for? It's registered where it's from.
And so any DMV enforcement officials, Robbie's address is it?
Yeah, no one cares.
Go after Robbie. I mean, chances are you could probably do that, and probably nothing will happen. Just leave the Canadian plate on it.
My advice is never should be taken for any sort of advice that anyone should take.
Yeah, neither of us are lawyers. Do not take our advice as legal advice.
Yeah.
So
like my no one cares will not hold up in a court of law. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But sure, Robbie on the Wheel Bearings podcast said no one cares. The judge is like, I care. I'm the one judge in this whole country.
If you play this recording for your judge, I'm sure he will let you off the hook. It was if Robbie said it was okay.
Robbie said it's okay. No one cares. Who cares? Yeah. Who cares? It's a Prius. It's not, you're not driving around in a
it's not like you're polluting anyway, even with a Canadian Prius.
You're not driving around in a it's not like powered by coal. It's a Prius.
All right. And on that note, let's call it a show. After we're done here, stick around. I've got an interview I did with Steve Center, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Kia America and Executive Vice President. And we talked about what Kia is doing, talked about the EV9, the EV3 and EV4 concepts, how things are going with EVs and Kia and just Kia in general. So enjoy that conversation. And don't forget, the holidays are coming up. You can still get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. We got t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, all kinds of stuff with a couple of different designs, phone cases. And if you are one of our Patreon supporters, I check your email. There's a discount code in there, so you can get 10% off your order from Cotton Bureau. We're doing doing all this merch through Cotton Bureau. They do really nice quality stuff, quality t-shirts, quality screen printing. And hope you enjoy it. Get some for your favorite auto enthusiast, or just for yourself if you like that.
It's a Black Friday sale, which Black Friday seems to last for months now.
Yeah. Black Friday only lasts from the day after Thanksgiving until the day before Thanksgiving. Yeah. The only day that doesn't count is actual Thanksgiving Day.
Thanksgiving, yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody, it's Sam. Got another interview from the 2023 LA Auto Show, this time with Steve Center, who is the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President of Kia America. Kia showed off a refreshed version of the Sorento, their midsize crossover, along with the EV9, which is a North American Car, Truck, and Utility of the Year finalist. And they also showed a couple of new concepts that they showed in Korea previously, but it's the first time they've shown them in North America, which is probably a pretty good indicator that they will be bringing those to market here. That's the EV3 small crossover and the EV4 sedan. So let's listen to my conversation with Steve.
All right, so let's talk about Kia. The brand's been on a great run for a while now, and I guess starting off today here at the show, we get the EV9 finalist for North American Car Truck of the Year. You get the refresh of the Sorento, and two very interesting concepts here. I guess let's start with EV9. That to me seems like a very important product for the brand as it comes to market.
It's a new flagship.
Yes.
If you think about Telluride as being a flagship, this is a new flagship. And strategically, you think of Kia as having two lines of cars and covered all the segments that are around this thing. Internal combustion line, which includes hybrids and plug-in hybrids, and then pure EV line. So what we showed you there is what we're going today in terms of the E3, E4. There's a passenger car, and then there's an entry SUV. EV9 shows, again, what Kia can do in terms of the product, and if had a chance to play with one, I assume. So
I had about 24 hours of one.
Yeah, but it's good.
Yeah.
But there's a lot there. It's phenomenal. I spent the weekend with one, and even my snooty friends enjoyed it. And it's all there. All the features are there. The performance is there. The price-value relationship is there as well. And it's small V value in terms of it's not just cheap. It's the economic formula is utility over price. Mm-hmm. So it shows what Kia can do. Has a range, over 300 miles range. It starts under 55,000. So it's the biggest segment out there. It's the aspirational segment. And we show with Telluride, we can bring the people to the brand younger, better educated, wealthier. EV6 did it again. The trade-ins the dealers are getting are from all over the spectrum with those two cars, and this is going to do even more for us. And to a great extent, we've got Blue Ocean for a while. All right, there's nobody else going to be there.
Yeah, the only other three-row utility out there right now is the Rivian R1S, which is a considerably higher price point.
Yeah, and not much more car.
Yeah.
In our mind. So I think we're in a good space. It's going to reinforce some burnish Kia's image as being able to provide these types of products that are not average, because most of the market isn't where that other car is, right? Mm-hmm. Think about it. So this is a middle class car.
Do you think EV9 is going to, at least in the near term, cannibalize some Telluride sales, or do you foresee it being mostly accretive sales?
Right. That's a good question. I think maybe not cannibalize, but maybe we'll grow there where Telluride grows slower in its spaces. We've increased Telluride, I think, originally from 70,000. What was the original number? I don't know. We're at 120.
Yeah.
Now, when we're kind of production team, for this year, we increased the capacity of the factory, and we're investing in Westport, Georgia, to build the EV9 there also. So to some extent, we don't know how high we could go because we only built Telluride here, and we've only created so much production space. So the additional production will be EV9, and that's it. But I don't think we'll cannibalize it because you're starting to see there's an EV buyer and there's a combustion buyer for a lot of different reasons, driving habits or personal circumstances and so on.
How, you've got the EV6, you've had the EV6 in the market for, a year and a half or so now, almost 2 years. And you've had the Nero for a while as well. How would you say the Kia buyers have taken to EVs?
Very well. I think it's probably served to work as a retention product. So the Kia buyers that keep for EVs, and we had a Nero, a prior generation Nero, had an EV. You would again a small car, less range than EV6. So it's probably kept a lot of our customers from defecting.
Customers that would have gone to
That wanted a bigger,
or wanted something
a bigger car, or bigger or more range, and so as we built out that line, you're going to see a lot of this from the ICE line come across, and they'll find what they were looking for there as well, and that'll increase our volume overall because for quite some time, there'll be a lot of ICE sales. We're still growing there.
Yeah, with one of the big advantages of the GMP platform vehicles, the EV6 and now EV9, is that really fast charging capability. Have you heard from customers, has the feedback from customers been that is an important part of their buying decision? The faster charging capability.
Oh, absolutely. Well, if you think about it, that's a limiting factor to the road trip, right? So fast charging is important. Super fast charging is super important.
Yeah.
Clearly, when you're on the go, you don't waste time sitting around. So the faster we can make it, the more of a competitive advantage we'll have. Absolutely.
One of the challenges, particularly for legacy brands, with selling EVs has been the dealership experience. And either one of, Brad, you may want to talk to that, or Steve.
No.
The education of the retail staff, getting them on board to actually want to sell EVs. How's the relationship been with Kia dealers and the retail staff when it comes to EVs?
Yeah, car dealers are interesting creatures, and salespeople are interesting creatures. And they always, anyone that's ever sold anything is certainly more comfortable when there's eager demand walking in the door. If you're trying to convert somebody from an internal combustion car to an EV, it may not work. They got to have the right circumstance. But I think the bigger challenge is getting them to speak a different language. So let's assume we're dealing with a great salesperson to begin with. They've got to now.
I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
Oh, there are professionals out there, I think. Not as many as we would like.
Yeah.
But there are people that are raised huge families and sent their kids to school doing this. But the point that I'm trying making is the language is different, and it's taken me until now to get comfortable with it. So you have to start to talk about kilowatts, kilowatt hours. There's fuel efficiency, mile per gallon. There's miles per kilowatt hour. So there's a whole different language that you have to learn. And then there are different feature aspects that you have to learn. So when you look at EV9 and you talk about power exporting and you power your house, with that is you have to know so much more about things that you never had to know anything about. And just the charging side, right? When you sold a regular car, you didn't have to explain anything to anyone. And if you lived in New Jersey, they didn't even have to know how to pump gas because they pump the gas for you. So I think that's one of the challenges. But regardless of the EVs or internal combustion cars, the biggest challenge we have is the sales experience with the dealers. And even the good, the brands that are at the top of the sales experience, lists with JD Power, are providing a terrible sales experience. And it's for a lot of different reasons. And the circumstances of the last 2 years didn't help either. So you had the lockdown, you had I'll call it the supply chain snafu. And all the automakers were having 120, 150 days supply of product to zero. So overnight, we turned into Dell as an industry. Right? Someone comes in, they buy a car, we make the car and we send it, just like the computers. So that drove the prices up. And no one likes that. And it also drove the behavior down. And for customers are very disappointed in this. So we were working very hard with our dealers And so the war cars, because they're very new and they're very hot, the EV9's an example, is we work very hard to reach that MSRP. Don't mark it up any further. If you mark it up, then apparently we underpriced it, and then we're going to come mark it up. But you have to get the dealers and the salespeople to think longer term than that. So quite frankly, price transparency and the rest of the sales experience is a bigger problem in retail than the salespeople selling EVs. And as we get younger salespeople, they'll be more comfortable with it because they could start.
Is Kia working with your dealer network to help with training?
Yeah, very hard. We've got all kinds of training that we're putting out there. We're also doing process training. We're making technological changes where dealer customers can make deposits online at our website through a dealer selling. We're not selling direct. So that forces some of the price transparency because you're not going to make a deposit if you don't know what the asking price is. So I think in the end, technology is probably the great equalizer in this case, and it's going to force them to clean up their act a bit.
Yeah. So today you also showed two concepts that I think have also been previously shown in Korea. Are those vehicles? Can we expect to see vehicles like that in U.S. Kia dealerships in the not too distant future?
You might just vehicles like that for sure.
Okay.
Those two, who knows how they'll be born,
Yeah.
But we're here to gather feedback also. But if you look at the EV3, in my mind, given the initial interest in EV9 from a styling direction, that's a no-brainer. And we have more demand for Seltos that we can fill, and it's kind of a seller market segment. So I think that one's sort of a no-brainer. And the passenger car also, when you look at the styling, similar styling direction as a sibling, that's a rather striking, small sedan.
Yeah. And, Kia, despite some other brands, running away from sedans, it still has sedans. Those sedans.
Sedans. But here's a kind of an interesting little factoid. So you mentioned the EG&P platform before. So part of that's electrical architecture, and part of it's just the physical layout. So you have a flat floor. So normally in a car the size of the EV3, the back would be crowded. You wouldn't have a lot of footroom. Have to get rid of the world to peer into it because the floor is flat, and that's because of the EV architecture. Whereas if you look at a Seltos or an internal combustion car in the back seat, there's always a lot coming on the other tile, other stamping features. So because the floor is flat, you can have pedestal seats, you can have storage up to the back seat, there's all kinds of things.
And that's smaller than the K5 was, right? Yes, the EV4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But the interior space may be there.
Right, because you don't have to package it as a traditional powertrain.
Yeah. So I think it's really exciting from an auto design and packaging standpoint. Right now, what you can do.
Okay, and Kia, as a brand, has always been known for providing good value. And as you said earlier, not cheap but good value. It would be interesting to have products like that in the lineup. As you try to grow EV sales, you can't just have everything at the high end of the spectrum.
Oh, the volume is in the middle of it. So, as I said before, we're going to have an electric line and we're going to have an internal combustion line. In the near term, we're going to have two lines. And I don't know when or if the ICE cars will never entirely go away. I think the government's saying that. But I personally take that as aspirational. There's going to be a cowboy in Wyoming that still needs his diesel pickup.
Yeah.
And that cowboy should have that diesel pickup, and that cowboy's on the problem.
Yeah. Great. What else we haven't talked about around Kia should people be thinking about?
Well, I think generally the brand renaissance general. We have re-imaged ourselves. The dealers are being re-imaged. It's a whole new company, New Energy. And in the end, you're defined by your product and your experience. And Kia has done it and is doing it on the product side, and we're going to do it on the experience. And for the dealers, that's worth a brand also.
Yeah. That reminds me, the other thing I wanted to ask you about was charging. Kia was one of the companies that's joining this joint venture to develop a charging network. How important do you think it is for automakers to get more directly involved like that in developing the charging infrastructure, given that, for 130 years they've stayed away from the fueling infrastructure side of the business?
You didn't need to. I think at this moment it's important because there isn't a lot of leadership in the infrastructure space. The government's putting money out there. There's plenty of money in private industry for anything that'll make money. But this electric business is quite different than anything else because upstream you have utilities and they're highly regulated. So you'd think that, well, why is the power company just going to this everywhere? They're not allowed. And so this is, we're kind of fighting in the ring with two arms tied behind our backs. So at this moment in time, it's important for manufacturers to throw in. It's kind of a damn shame that they have to. Mm-hmm. Going forward, I think we'll reach a certain critical mass of EVs in market, so there will be the UIOs to create the demand, and it'll start to happen faster. One of the first things that happened that's encouraging is we're getting away from 2 or 3 charging pump standards.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, it'll be like Europe.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Right. And I guess getting directly involved and making sure the charging experience for customers is great is a key part of providing a great customer ownership experience.
Absolutely. There's 2 parts of the experience. It's the vehicle, product, and then the ownership. The ownership includes the dealers and the service, but it also includes just the use case. And the charging is the most critical right now because the cars are out there, but you don't have the charging infrastructure that's adequate. And the regulations are driving the production of the cars, but there's the leadership on the infrastructure side.
What about other revenue streams like subscriptions of various sorts? Is that something that you see as something that is going to become an important part of Kia's business in the future?
All forms of revenue in this business going forward will be important, especially when you consider that EVs may last a lot longer, or maybe kept on the road longer through reconditioning and battery repairs. So we're going to have to look for different revenue streams. But also, it's a different product. So an electric car is quite techy, and quite techy. Customer wants different things, and it may be different business opportunities within the car, the automakers.
And with the new connected car navigation OS, you've got opportunities there to provide new features over time.
Right. So you've got the physical car, you've got the electric powertrain side, there's things you can sell related to that. And then there's the, they used to call it infotainment. It's much bigger than that. Yeah. That's still a huge under-conquered opportunity.
What do you think may be the best opportunity, best types of things that people might be willing to pay for? It's things like maybe driver assist features, hands-free driving capabilities.
Yeah, it's elsewhere. If you think about it, it might really disintermediate the whole notion of model trims.
Uh-huh.
Because while some of what's in a model trim may be physical, where you have relaxation seats in an EV9 with a footrest, you may not put that in a lower trim. But in terms of lots of the other features, the electrical aspects, like the performance, the power curve, or other things, you can probably sell them as the long option.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, as always, Steve.
It was helpful.
Yeah, it was. Great conversation.
Will I see you in New York, maybe?
For the New York show?
Yeah.
Oh, almost certainly. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Definitely hope so.
Good.
So,